No, not again!
Cyberpunk 2077. After a long wait and an unbelievable amount of marketing and hype, it's finally out. Oh joy. Wish it wasn't. These aren't bugs that you just saw before. These are deliberate design decisions that have been placed in there and left to get the game out sooner rather than later. There is no way that any of it was an oversight, just like the poor performance, the fact that the game crashes if you tab out of it, or all the T-posing, clipping and warping NPCs. I couldn't play through a single mission, a single one in Cyberpunk without experiencing at least one major bug. When I got lucky, it would be just an animation breaking. If I got unlucky, it would be the mission not continuing or the game crashing on me. But hey! At least we have Keanu Reeves, right? Developers couldn't see their loved ones as they were forced to work more than 50 hours a week, but at least the game is out before Christmas for that sweet, sweet present money. Maybe this is also deliberate. Maybe CD Red wanted to show everyone the consequences of corporate greed and intentionally made a bad, overhyped product that had more than 8 million pre-orders, right? Screw it. Let's just talk about the game. Cyberpunk 2077 is an open-world RPG, wait, never mind, not anymore. Action-adventure set in a future where corporations own literally everything. Initially, the CD Red marketing team was pushing the concept that it's a very in-depth role-playing game, where every choice matters and where you have an insane amount of branching paths to follow. As time passed, that was thrown out of the window and it became an RPG, similar to how Witcher 3 is one. You can occasionally influence the ending of a quest, but it doesn't leave much of an impact on the world or the rest of your journey. Don't take me wrong, it's still good, just not what was promised. A good example is the way you're able to select your backstory at the start of the game. The marketing campaign said it was going to matter a lot which choice you make, and the community was excitingly setting up where they want to start and which path they want to lead their character into. However, in the end, the choice is completely irrelevant. All character backgrounds end up following the infamous mercenary path within 30 minutes of gameplay. The only difference being that sometimes you get presented with a dialogue option based on your origin, which again is irrelevant to the outcome of the mission. And this is where the problem really lies. I would not call Cyberpunk a bad game. I would call it falsely advertised, overhyped. I mean, I actually really enjoyed Cyberpunk. It has incredibly well-acted dialogue and story that is full of interesting characters that I would always be happy to spend time with. When it came out, I booted it up, got disappointed by the poor performance and polish, and then continued playing it like an addict, because the story just gripped me so much. I would love to tell you what it's about, but it's all spoiler territory. All I can say is that although it doesn't actually tackle the typical politics that are known in the cyberpunk genre like Deus Ex does for instance, it does manage to tell an interesting story that is full of personality. Sadly for CD Red, there are several other things that come with a game besides story, like the gameplay, which is usually doing two things: dealing with enemies trying to get to an objective, and tedious fucking menuing. CD Red has decided that the best approach to the entire progression system is to go vertical instead of horizontal. What this means is that your characters and enemies grow in statistical numbers instead of more varied abilities. This direction is also represented in the skill tree, the weapons, armor, and cyberkinetic attachments. There are some exceptions here and there, like being able to upgrade your legs to double jump, but nearly all other upgrades are more armor, more health, more damage. The same applies to the skill trees. Almost all of them are cooldown reductions, damage increases, and other dull and boring crap. This dictates the joy I felt in combat. Based on the statistical numbers of my gun, plus the statistical number of my upgrades and skills, the enemy would either require a lot of shots or slightly less. Wow, so fun shooting at sponges. The same applies to you. You have an armor rating that is increased via wearing worse clothes. Okay, this is ridiculous. Remember that trailer where they talked about all the different styles represented in Cyberpunk and how you can dress like all of them? Well, that's thrown out of the window. You need good armor stats, so you'll end up picking whatever has them, even if it means looking like a smelly neckbeard or gay cowboy. This is also the reason why tedious menuing becomes a big part of the game. Enemies drop guns and clothes, you pick them up and then have to compare stats in the menu screen. Again, super fun. Who doesn't love Menu Simulator? But hey, if you don't like combat, you can go stealth instead. Distract enemies by hacking electronics and blinding their eyesight. Then take them down by placing yourself behind their back and pressing a button. Yeah, that's all there is to it. I get that this isn't meant to be Dishonored or Splinter Cell, but damn, it doesn't even have ventilation shafts like in Deus Ex or lockers like Alien Isolation. It's actually on par with Skyrim, a game that came out 10 years ago. As for the hacking, it's fine. You can scan an enemy and then select which condition they should suffer from. The selection is based on the hacks you have installed. Early game you'll be mostly using that to distract enemies or give yourself a minor advantage. Late game it looks like this. Yeah, not much of a challenge, but definitely a satisfying power fantasy. There's also melee combat, but I can't say much about it as I haven't used it enough. It has some cool weeaboo animations, especially when using the katanas, but otherwise I can't really see anything special about it, besides it supposedly being utterly overpowered in late game like most things. CD Red hasn't properly playtested and balanced this game if it wasn't obvious enough. Speaking of things that weren't properly balanced, the visuals of Cyberpunk 2077 are amazing, with beautiful vistas everywhere, a recognizable art style, and artists making sure that every little bit of Night City received that touch of detail. Wish the performance would have received a similar amount of love. The reason why I took a long break from making videos and streaming was because I was frustrated with my old 4-core Intel CPU stuttering during video editing. Now that I built a beast of a PC with a 5900X and an overclocked 3090, I'm ready for editing. But I certainly wasn't ready for the performance that Cyberpunk presented to me. The benchmarks that came out pre-release are fairly accurate. It's terrible. And if it wasn't for DLSS, I wouldn't be able to play this game on maxed out settings on a desktop PC with some of the best parts in the world. Just how? I hope that they're able to get a golden patch out that somehow magically fixes that, but I doubt it. Then again, I've been wrong before. The polish is not the only thing that Cyberpunk lacks either. In the mid and late game, several quests are just incomplete, like entirely. You start off with an interesting topic that builds into something that could potentially be incredibly interesting, just for the game to go, job finished. And I'm just here going, huh? Really? You almost had something good there. Oh yeah, forgot something, didn't I? The cars and driving. Do I really have to? Cars drive like they're on ice, constantly. That's all I have to say. You want to turn left? You're sliding. You want to turn right? You're sliding. I hate the driving in this game so much, and unlike GTA, you can't even customize the cars, buy a house and then proudly park them in your garage. It's just there so you can get from A to B while the marketing team brags about it. This concludes my Cyberpunk review. To nutshell it, story and dialogue are great, and definitely carry the experience. The artistic direction is fantastic, and the game manages to visually impress at all times. On PC, at least. However, stealth is boring, the shooting is spongy and arcadey. Hacking is fun but lacks complexity, and well, I can't really say anything about the melee. Missions are very often just incomplete, driving feels awful, the performance is atrocious, and the game is incapable of handling a single mission without bugs, glitches, or crashes. I enjoyed my time in Cyberpunk regardless, but I can't recommend it in its current state. Wait for several patches and the DLCs to come out, then buy it on sale. It's not worth it, otherwise, and you should definitely not reward CD Red's behavior with your money. I hope that this entire mess becomes a good lesson for developers, publishers, as well as the community.